The chamber of the Galactic Concord was quiet but not calm. Hundreds of species watched from their raised platforms, their translators humming softly. At the center stood Princess Zalara of the Vierk's dominion. Her posture was perfect, her long silver crest lifted in confidence. She had spoken for several minutes already, and every word had landed like a blade. "Humans exaggerate their strength," she said, her voice clear and sharp. "They exaggerate their endurance, and now they exaggerate their biology." Across the chamber, the human delegation remained still. Ambassador Helen Moore kept her hands folded, her face neutral. Beside her stood Dr. Elias Grant, a human biologist invited to speak during the cultural exchange. Princess Zalara continued, her eyes glowing faintly. "It is impossible for an intelligent species to reproduce without seasonal limitation. Continuous breeding leads to social collapse, resource failure, and biological decay. Every advanced species in this chamber knows this truth." Murmurs of agreement spread among several delegations. She turned her gaze directly to the humans. "Yet you claim your species can reproduce at any time, year-round, without ritual cycles, without population mandates." Her crest twitched slightly, a sign of disbelief. "You are lying." A ripple of tension moved through the room. Dr. Grant stepped forward slowly. He was not tall compared to many species present, and he wore no armor or symbols of power, just a simple uniform and a calm expression. "We are not lying," he said. "Humans have reproduced year-round for our entire recorded history." Princess Zalara let out a sharp sound that translated as laughter. "Absurd. Even primitive species learn restraint. If what you say is true, your world should be buried under its own young." Dr. Grant nodded once. "We have challenges, but we adapt." The princess's eyes narrowed. "Adaptation has limits." Ambassador Moore finally spoke. "Princess Zalara, we can provide full medical records, population studies, historical data." "I do not trust numbers created by liars," Zalara cut in. The word echoed in the chamber. Several delegates leaned forward, eager. The human ambassador did not raise her voice. "Then what would you trust?" For the first time, the princess hesitated. Her crest lowered slightly as she considered. "I will trust my own senses," she said. "I will trust observation, not reports, not simulations." A low murmur swept the hall. "You will allow me to live among your people," Zalara continued. "Not a controlled exhibit. Not a ceremonial city, a real human settlement." Dr. Grant stiffened. "That is highly irregular." "It is my right under conquered law," Zalara replied. "Biological verification by immersion." The conquered AI confirmed it instantly. The law was ancient, rarely used, but binding. Ambassador Moore closed her eyes for a brief moment, then opened them again. "If we refuse, then the galaxy will know humans as deceivers," Zalara said calmly, "and all future cooperation will end." Silence fell. The human delegation exchanged quiet glances. This was dangerous. Not because of violence, but because of exposure. Humans were many things, but perfect they were not. Finally, Ambassador Moore nodded. "We accept." Princess Zalara's crest rose again. "Good. I look forward to witnessing your collapse." She turned and left the chamber without another word. 3 days later, a sleek Vierk's transport descended through the clouds of Haven 3, a mid-sized human colony world. It was not Earth, not a capital, not a showpiece. It was chosen for one reason only. It was ordinary. Princess Zalara stood at the viewing window as the ship slowed. Below her stretched green land, cities spaced carefully apart, rivers winding between them. No towering megastructures, no endless slums. "This is your example?" she asked. Dr. Grant, standing beside her, nodded. "Yes," she clicked her tongue. "You hide your overcrowding well." When they landed, the airlock opened to reveal a small group of humans. No soldiers, no banners, just administrators, medical staff, and a few curious civilians held back by a polite barrier. Zalara stepped out, her boots touching human soil for the first time. She waited for something: panic, fear, reverence. She got none of it. A child waved at her. Zalara froze. The small human was holding another, younger one by the hand. The older child smiled openly without fear. The younger stared with wide eyes. "Are those offspring?" Zalara asked sharply. "Yes," Dr. Grant said. "Siblings. So close in age," she pressed. 2 years apart. Her crest fluttered in irritation. Irresponsible. They walked through the settlement. Zalara noted the signs quickly. Housing units varied in size. Some held single adults. Some held families. Some held multiple generations. There were medical centers, schools, recreation areas, and wide open spaces left untouched. "What is your current reproduction cycle?" she demanded. "We don't have one," Dr. Grant replied. "People choose when or if they want children." Zalara stopped walking. "You allow choice?" "Yes." "Without state approval?" "Yes." "Without genetic review?" "Yes." Her eyes widened. Madness. They entered a medical center. Inside, humans moved calmly between rooms. Some carried infants. Others supported elderly patients. Screens displayed vital signs, schedules, and alerts. Zalara watched as a human female spoke gently to a pregnant patient. "She is reproducing now?" Zalara asked. "Yes." "And that one?" She pointed to another human carrying a child. "That child is 3 years old." "And that one?" She gestured to a nearby family with a teenager. 17. Zalara's breathing slowed. "All alive?" "Yes." She turned to Dr. Grant. "How many die?" He did not dodge the question. "Some. We work to reduce it." "Yet you continue to reproduce without pause." "Yes." She looked disturbed but also confused. "Why do your people not drown in need?" "We plan," he said simply. They visited a school next. Children of many ages learned together. Some studied science, some art, some played outside. Older students helped younger ones without being told. Zalara watched silently. "Those children are not related," Dr. Grant explained. "They help anyway." "Why?" "Because they are part of the same community." Her crest lowered. "Your species depends too much on cooperation." Dr. Grant smiled faintly. "That's why we're still here." That night, Zalara was given private quarters overlooking the settlement. Lights glowed softly as families returned home. Some windows showed quiet meals. Others showed laughter. Some showed arguments that ended in shared smiles. She activated her recorder. "Day 1, she said. "Humans appear functional. This is unexpected. Their reproduction is uncontrolled, yet their society does not show immediate decay. I remain unconvinced. Collapse may simply be slower." She paused, watching a human couple walk with a small child between them. "They do not treat reproduction as sacred or dangerous," she continued. "It is normal." The word felt strange. In orbit above Haven 3, unseen by the colony, another ship watched silently. Its hull bore the markings of the Vierk's Internal Security Council. Inside, a commander spoke quietly. "If the princess believes the humans, the doctrine will weaken." Another voice replied, "Then ensure she does not." Back on the surface, Princess Zalara closed her recorder. For the first time since arriving, she felt something unfamiliar. Not anger, not pride, unease. And beneath it, a question she had never allowed herself to ask before. What if the humans were not lying at all? Morning on Haven 3 arrived slowly, with pale light spreading over the settlement. Princess Zalara stood by the wide window of her quarters and watched humans begin their day. She expected noise, confusion, disorder. Instead, she saw routine. People left their homes in steady lines. Some walked alone. Some walked in pairs. Some carried small children on their shoulders or held their hands. None of it looked forced. She felt irritation rise in her chest. This was not how an unrestricted breeding species was supposed to look. Dr. Elias Grant arrived shortly after. He bowed his head slightly, a human gesture of respect he had explained to her the day before. "Today, you said you wanted to see how humans manage resources," he said. "Yes," Zalara replied. "Food, shelter, care. These are the first systems to fail under population pressure. Then we'll start with food, he said. They traveled to the agricultural zone outside the settlement. The land was wide and open, with fields arranged in neat patterns. Machines moved slowly between rows of crops, guided by human operators. Some workers were young adults. Others were older, their movements slower but steady. Zalara scanned the fields with her visual sensors. "You grow more than you need," she said. "Yes," Grant answered. "We store excess, we trade it, we prepare for bad seasons." "You plan for failure," she said. "We plan for reality." She watched as a group of humans harvested crops. A child ran between them, laughing, before being gently guided away from the machines by an adult. "That child should not be here," Zalara said sharply. "She's learning," Grant replied. "And she's supervised." "Learning to farm?" Zalara asked. "Learning responsibility." Zalara did not respond. On Vyerk's worlds, children were kept separate from production zones. Reproduction was rare and valuable. Offspring were protected by strict systems, shielded from labor and risk. Yet here, humans allowed their young to exist within daily life. It felt reckless. They moved on to a food distribution center. Humans arrived with containers and digital cards. There was no visible fear, no rushing. When supplies ran low in one section, workers adjusted routes calmly. "Who decides who eats?" Zalara asked. "No one," Grant said. "Everyone eats." She turned to him sharply. "That is impossible." "We don't have enough for everyone all the time," he admitted, "but we have enough if we work together." A human worker nearby overheard and smiled. "And if we don't, we fix it." Zalara studied the worker's face. No signs of deception, no fear of punishment. "You trust your people too much," she said. Grant looked at her. "So do you, Princess. You just trust them in different ways." The next stop was a residential sector. Homes varied in size and design. Some were compact and efficient. Others were larger, with shared spaces and gardens. Zalara noticed that some homes held more people than others, but none appeared overcrowded. She pointed to one building. "How many live there?" "8," Grant said. "And that one?" "2." "You do not regulate distribution." "No," he said. "People adjust." They entered one of the larger homes. Inside, 3 generations lived together. An older human sat at a table, guiding a young child's hands as they worked on a simple device. Another adult prepared food nearby. A teenager listened to music while helping clean. Zalara felt something twist inside her. On her homeworld, generations were separated. Elders were respected but kept in special zones. Children were raised in state-controlled environments. Family units were limited, carefully monitored. "This is inefficient," she said, though her voice lacked strength. The older human looked up. "Maybe," they said kindly, "but it works for us." Zalara did not answer. Later, they visited a medical facility again, this time deeper inside. Here, she saw not just birth and care, but loss. A human family sat quietly as a doctor spoke to them in low tones. There were tears. There was grief. Zalara stiffened. "Why do you allow this suffering?" The doctor looked up. "Because we can't stop all of it," Grant spoke softly. "We lose people, children too sometimes. We hate it, but we don't stop living because of it." Zalara watched as the family supported each other, holding hands, sharing the weight of pain. On Vyerk's worlds, loss during reproduction was considered failure. Entire bloodlines could be erased from reproductive rights because of it. Here, loss was part of life, not accepted easily, but faced together. That evening, Zalara returned to her quarters more unsettled than before. She activated her recorder. "Day 3, she said slowly. "Humans do not prevent reproduction to avoid suffering. They endure suffering to preserve life. This logic is inverted." She paused. "Their population stability does not rely on biological limits. It relies on social bonds. This is dangerous." She stopped the recording. A soft sound came from outside her window. She looked down and saw a small gathering in a shared courtyard. Humans had placed lights around the area, food was being shared, music played softly. "What is that?" she asked over the communicator. "A community meal," Grant replied. "It's not a holiday, just something we do." "Why?" she asked. "Because people like being together." Zalara watched as humans of different ages sat side by side. Some children ate quickly and ran off to play. Others leaned against adults, half asleep. No guards watched them. No officials counted them. This should not work, she thought. And yet it did. High above Haven 3, the Vierk's Internal Security Council ship adjusted its orbit. Inside, tension grew. "The princess has been planetside too long," one officer said. "Her reports are changing." Another replied, "We cannot allow admiration." "What do you propose?" "Create stress," the commander said. "If humans truly breed without limit, pressure will expose weakness." "Without harming the princess," the officer warned. "Of course," the commander said coldly. "Only the humans." Back on the surface, Zalara joined Grant the next day to observe education planning. Humans debated future resource needs openly. Population projections were discussed, not as threats but as challenges to solve. "You speak of growth without fear," Zalara said. "We fear," Grant replied. "We just don't freeze." A human planner added, "People are not numbers to us, they're reasons to improve." Zalara felt something shift again, a crack, small but growing. That night as she prepared to sleep, alarms sounded faintly in the distance. Not loud, controlled. "What is happening?" she asked. "Minor infrastructure issue," Grant said over the communicator. "Power fluctuation in one sector, already contained." She waited for panic. It did not come. Lights dimmed briefly, then returned. The settlement adjusted. People continued their routines. Zalara lay awake long after, staring at the ceiling. Her entire worldview was built on the belief that survival required restriction. That life must be limited to remain strong. Humans did not limit life. They managed it. And that difference frightened her more than any lie ever could. The alarms on Haven 3 did not scream. They chimed. Soft, steady, controlled. Princess Zalara noticed that first. On her world, alarms meant panic, command overrides, and fear. Here, they sounded almost polite. She stood on a balcony overlooking the settlement as humans reacted. Doors opened. People stepped outside. Some checked handheld devices. Others spoke calmly to neighbors. No one ran. Dr. Elias Grant joined her moments later. His expression was serious but not afraid. "Second power failure in 2 days," Zalara said. "Your systems are weakening." "They're being tested," Grant replied. "That's different." Zalara turned her sharp gaze on him. "You expect me to believe this is coincidence?" Grant did not answer right away. His silence was answer enough. They moved toward the affected sector. Autonomous vehicles rerouted traffic. Emergency teams were already at work. Zalara watched closely, waiting for the signs she believed must come: confusion, overcrowding, desperation. Instead, she saw humans adjusting. Families opened their homes to neighbors whose power was out. Local centers distributed warm food. Children were kept together and supervised. No one asked who was responsible. They asked what was needed. "This level of cooperation cannot last," Zalara said. "Stress reveals truth." Grant nodded. "You're about to see our truth." The next disruption came before nightfall. A water purification unit malfunctioned. Not enough to cause immediate harm, but enough to limit supply in 2 districts. Zalara expected strict rationing enforced by authority. Instead, humans volunteered reductions. Industries slowed production. People shared stored water without complaint. A message spread across the settlement: "Conserve today so everyone has enough tomorrow." She watched a human mother give her water portion to an elderly neighbor. "That is inefficient," Zalara said weakly. "That is survival," Grant replied. Above Haven 3, the hidden Vierk ship monitored everything. The Internal Security Council grew uneasy. "Stress is not causing collapse," one officer said. "It is strengthening them." The commander's jaw tightened. Increase pressure, carefully. The third strike came at dawn. A key transport route failed. Supplies from nearby settlements were delayed. This time the problem was large enough to be felt. Markets closed early. Medical deliveries slowed. Zalara finally sensed tension among the humans, but it was not the tension she expected. People gathered not to fight but to plan. Leaders emerged naturally, not through rank but through competence. Engineers spoke. Medics advised. Teachers organized children to keep them calm. Zalara stood in a public planning hall listening. "We'll reroute supplies," one human said. "We can convert the old transit line," another added. "Community kitchens can cover meals for 3 days," a third said. No one mentioned stopping reproduction. No one suggested isolating families or restricting life. "You are facing scarcity," Zalara said aloud. "Why do you not halt future strain?" A human engineer looked at her, confused. "You mean stop having kids?" "Yes," Zalara said. "Temporarily." The engineer frowned. "That wouldn't fix the road." Laughter followed, not mocking, just genuine confusion. Grant spoke gently. "We solve the problem in front of us. Life doesn't stop because things get hard." Zalara felt her chest tighten. On Vyerk's worlds, crises triggered immediate reproductive suspension. Life was paused to preserve order. Here, life continued and order followed it. The sabotage escalated. That night, an environmental stabilizer failed. Temperature controls fluctuated. Some residential zones grew cold. Zalara finally heard raised voices. Fear showed on faces. This is it, she thought, collapse. But even now, humans did not turn on each other. They opened public shelters. Families shared blankets. Children were kept warm at the center of groups. Humans with medical training moved constantly, checking on the vulnerable. Zalara helped without realizing it. She held thermal packs. She guided children. She spoke calming words through her translator. At some point, she realized humans were taking her instructions seriously. They trusted her. The thought struck her harder than any alarm. By morning, the systems were stabilized. Damage was real but contained. No riots, no abandonment, no breakdown. Exhausted, Zalara retreated to a quiet room and activated her recorder. "Day 8, she said, her voice unsteady. "External pressure has increased. Human systems bend but do not break. Their population density did not amplify chaos, it reduced it." She stopped, then added quietly, "Their children are not burdens, they are anchors." The recorder shut off. Later that day, she confronted Grant privately. "These failures are not natural," she said. "Your people are being tested." Grant nodded. "We suspected as much." "By my own government," she said. "They fear what I am learning." Grant did not look surprised. "Will you report it?" "Yes," Zalara said. "All of it." That decision triggered the final move. The sabotage was exposed publicly. Evidence surfaced: foreign code, orbital interference, hidden observers. Humans did not respond with anger toward the Vyerk's people. They responded with clarity. The Galactic Concord was notified. Zalara stood before a live transmission panel, her image broadcast across dozens of worlds. "My initial accusation was wrong," she said clearly. Humans did not collapse under continuous reproduction. They adapted under pressure, pressure imposed by fear. Behind her, footage played. Humans working together, families supporting each other, children learning even during crisis. "These people are not reckless," Zalara continued. "They are resilient. Their strength does not come from limitation but from connection." Silence followed her statement. Above Haven 3, the hidden ship withdrew. That night, as the settlement slowly returned to normal, Zalara walked among the humans again. Tired faces smiled at her. Children waved. For the first time, she did not feel unease. She felt respect. And she knew the final truth was still ahead, one that would not just change her view of humans but her people forever. The days after the broadcast were quiet but not peaceful. Haven 3 returned to its routines, Yet something had changed. Humans went back to work, children returned to schools, families shared meals again. On the surface, life looked normal, but Princess Zalara felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on the settlement. She stood beside Dr. Elias Grant on a hill overlooking the city. The lights below glowed softly as evening settled in. "The conquered will respond soon," she said. "They cannot ignore what I said." Grant nodded. "Neither can your people." Zalara's crest lowered. "That is what troubles me." Messages began arriving within hours. Some were supportive, others were furious. Leaders from species bound by strict biological laws questioned her authority, her judgment, even her loyalty. From her own empire, the Vierk's dominion, the messages were colder. "You have endangered stability. You have exposed weakness. You have undermined doctrine." Zalara closed the display and looked away. "They will call for my return," she said quietly. "Will you go?" Grant asked. She did not answer right away. That night, a gathering formed in the central courtyard of Haven 3. No one announced it. Humans simply came. Families, workers, elders, children. They brought food, blankets, and light. Zalara watched from the edge. A human woman approached her. "You should sit," she said kindly. "You look tired." "I am not one of you," Zalara replied. The woman smiled. "Tonight that doesn't matter." Zalara hesitated, then sat among them. A human elder spoke softly to the group. "We've been through worse than this. We'll get through this too." No speeches about strength, no calls for dominance, just reassurance. Zalara felt something tighten in her chest. On her world, leadership was distant. Authority spoke from above. Here, leadership rose from within. The next morning, the Galactic Conquered convened an emergency session. Zalara stood once more in the great chamber, her image projected from Haven 3. Species across the stars watched. A senior Conquered arbiter spoke first. "Princess Zalara of the Vierk's dominion, you invoked an ancient right and completed its trial. Do you stand by your findings?" "Yes," Zalara said, "without reservation. You claim humans can reproduce continuously without societal collapse." "Yes, and that this ability strengthens rather than weakens their civilization." "Yes," murmurs spread. A representative from a long-lived species spoke sharply. "This contradicts all established models." Zalara did not flinch. "Your models are incomplete." Another voice followed. "If humans are so capable, why are they not dominant?" Grant leaned forward slightly, but Zalara answered before he could. "Because dominance is not their goal," she said. "Survival is." Silence fell. She continued. "Humans evolved not to control life but to manage uncertainty. They accept birth and loss as part of existence. Their societies are built to bend, not freeze." A Vierk's counselor interrupted. "And what of the risk? Unlimited reproduction leads to war, famine." "It leads to responsibility," Zalara cut in. "Something we have avoided by hiding behind limits." The chamber grew tense. The Conquered arbiter raised a hand. "The evidence presented confirms Princess Zalara's observations. No violation of galactic stability protocols has occurred." The ruling echoed across the chamber. Humans were validated. The session ended, but the consequences did not. Within hours, reform movements ignited across several empires. Questions long suppressed rose to the surface. Why must life be restricted? Why must fear dictate survival? The Vierk's dominion reacted swiftly. A formal recall order was issued. Princess Zalara was commanded to return home immediately. Grant read the message beside her. "They're serious." "Yes," she said, "they are afraid." "What will you do?" Zalara looked out at Haven 3 one last time. Children ran across open ground. Adults watched them, not with fear but trust. "I will return," she said, "but not to submit." Her departure was quiet. No ceremony, no guards, just a simple farewell. The human settlement gathered anyway. A child stepped forward and handed Zalara a small object, a simple carving of two hands holding a smaller one between them. "For remembering us," the child said. Zalara took it carefully. I will. As her ship lifted into the sky, she felt something she had never felt before. Hope mixed with resolve. Back on her homeworld, the reception was cold. Elders watched her with narrowed eyes. The Internal Security Council stood silent, exposed. "You have shaken our foundation," the High Regent said. "No," Zalara replied calmly. "I have shown its cracks." "You risk chaos." "We already live in fear," she said. "Humans showed me another way." Days turned into weeks. Debates erupted. Policies were questioned. For the first time in generations, Vyark citizens spoke openly about life, family, and choice. It was slow, painful, but unstoppable. On Haven 3, life continued. Humans did not celebrate their validation. They simply kept living, building, loving, preparing for tomorrow. Grant watched a news feed showing early reforms spreading through the galaxy. "They listened," he said softly. "They heard," Ambassador Moore corrected. "Listening takes time." Grant smiled. Far across the stars, Princess Zalara stood on a balcony overlooking her world. She watched Vyark's children walk freely with their parents, something rare, once forbidden. She held the small carving in her hands. Humans did not conquer the galaxy. They did something far more dangerous. They proved that life, when trusted, could endure without chains, and the galaxy would never be the same again.